Happy holidays to all of you, my friends out there, and welcome to this edition of the Game Show Canada, where for the 69th and final time in this series, we'll be looking back at a classic game show from here north of the border. With 2024 coming to an end, I've been looking back, and I gotta admit that this was not the greatest year for me. Back in October of 2023, which I can definitely look at this, I got into a minor accident. And although I didn't get injured, I did do some damage to my car. And I struggled for a long time trying to find an honest mechanic around here. And even then, there was only so much he could do. That made things very difficult because, as I mentioned before, I'm on here. I work two jobs. In addition to doing this, one of my jobs requires me to have a car. So that put a lot of stress on me trying to carry on without one, which makes that job very difficult. And I was worried that I was going to have to quit or I'd be fired because I didn't have a reliable car. So I was constantly in and out of the shop for much of this year. But I am proud to say that my coworkers were very understanding about it. They drove me around when they could, and it really helped me out. With a lot of hard work and saving my money, I have now bought a new car, and things are looking up. So hopefully that means 2025 is going to be a better year for me. And on the bright side, I've also managed to learn a lot about cars and things I've been able to fix myself. Like you're looking at a guy who back in October 2023 didn't even know what the dipstick was for. And since then, I've learned how to change my tires. I know how to change a fan. And I changed a coolant surge tank myself, and I did it in freezing cold weather too. So proud of myself, and like I said, hopefully it means that things are going to get better. But of course, one thing looking forward now is this is, as I just said, the final episode of this series. And I'm going to be saying some more at the end, but there is a new series that's going to be replacing this in January called The Global Game, which I will also be hosting and producing and everything. So I won't be going too far. But I'll talk more about it at the end. For right now, let's get on with this episode of the show. And the show we're going to talk about, I couldn't possibly imagine finishing off this series on a better note than talking about this show. Right from the beginning, I said this would be the final episode if and when it got to that point. So we're going to look back at Canada's longest running game show, Definition.
Definition: Baby Twin Cowboys. Solution: Western Sunset. And our solution to fun with a put on television is Definition. And now, Pilgrim, here's the star of the show, Jim Barry.
I like that. That's a terrific Boris Karloff imitation. I thought that was... Hello there. Welcome to Definition.
Definition was Canada's longest running game show, excluding panel shows, and it ran on CTV, debuting on September 9th of 1974 and ran until March 10th of 1989, a total of 15 seasons. It was taped at the CFTO TV studios in Scarborough, Ontario, a suburb of Toronto, and was originally hosted by then radio personality Bob McLean, not to be confused with longtime Hockey Night in Canada mainstay Ron McLean. Beginning its second season, its announcer and future game show legend Jim Perry would take over as host. Locally based meteorologist and frequent CTV in-house announcer Dave Duvall took over as the announcer from then on. Dave also served as an occasional substitute host. The game itself is essentially just a variation of the game of Hangman. Two teams of two play. Originally, each team consisted of a celebrity and a contestant, but beginning in the 1986 season, the celebrities were dropped, and each team consisted of two relatives. The object of the game is to solve the puzzle, which, with the clue given at the outset, will create a pun. One member of the team starts the turn by giving a letter away. If the letter they choose is in the puzzle, this ends the team's turn and gives their opponents a free guess. If the letter is not in the puzzle, then their partner can try to take a letter and guess a letter that they think is in the puzzle. If they're successful, then they earn a guess at the puzzle for their team. If they fail to solve, then the turn goes to their opponent. This goes back and forth until one team solves the puzzle. In the rare event that the teams use up all the letters that are not in the puzzle, play changes with each team alternating picking a letter and then getting a guess at the puzzle until somebody gets it. First team to solve 2, later 3 puzzles wins the game, small prize, and plays the bonus definition. For the bonus definition, the team is given a new puzzle and clue, and one free guess at the puzzle with no letters. If they can't solve, then the letters are revealed one by one in alphabetical order. The team can guess as many times as they would like at the puzzle without penalty, but the idea being to solve as quickly as possible, because once the team does solve the puzzle, then they win $10 for each unrevealed letter. If they don't solve it at all, then they still get a $10 consolation prize. Teams or players can stay on until defeated or until they won 5 games, at which point they will also win a bonus prize. And beginning after a few years, home viewers also earn the chance to take part in the game by submitting their own definitions. If it was used on the air, their name would be read on the air, and they'd receive a copy of the definition home game. Definition also holds the distinction of being one of only a couple of Canadian created game shows that were exported to other countries, as the UK would have its own version, which would launch in 1978 and ran until 1985 on ITV. In fact, its host, Don Moss, even appeared as a celebrity guest on the Canadian series. Now, like many Canadian game shows of the era, the show was frequently mocked for its cheapness, the prizes, and production values. It was not uncommon for contestants to win less than $100 in each game. According to one former contestant, they didn't even know what prizes they were going to win on the show, as the plugs and everything would be added in post. And even producers didn't know during production, as they would have to make arrangements later on. A lot of the prizes were reported coming from an overstock warehouse. But much like its sister show, Headline Hunters, they also held a yearly Tournament of Champions, which kind of helped make up for the cheapness. This Tournament of Champions actually had some very nice prizes on offer, including a brand new car for the winner. And really, the cheap prizes just kind of became a symbol of the show. Another symbol of the show was its theme song, Soul Bossa Nova, which later achieved new fame in the late 90s and early 2000s as the theme song of the Austin Powers movies. And you gotta wonder, when you consider the fact that those movies starred and were written by Mike Myers, who was a Canadian-born comedian and actor, maybe Mike had seen the show at some point and got a little inspiration. And of course, another great symbol about the show was its host, Jim Perry, who did a fantastic job as usual. And in many ways, this really helped launch his career. As while he was doing Definition, he was often helming other shows, and maybe it got his foot in the door. During the run of Definition, he would also handle Headline Hunters in Canada, as well as Card Sharks and Sail the Century in the United States. And would even host the Miss Canada pageant every year in Canada until his retirement in 1990. So you gotta admire Jim's work ethic, as he would take on multiple jobs and constantly travel back and forth across the border for quite a long stretch of time. A couple of hosts have done 3 shows at the same time, but not many have done it for such a long period. Well, there you have it, the final episode of the Games of Canada, where we looked at Definition, which is a Canadian classic, and what else could I really say about it? Now, this isn't truly goodbye, because in January, I'll be starting a brand new series here on Game Show Gumbo called The Global Game, where we'll be traveling all over the world looking at various game shows from virtually any country you can think of. England, France, Australia, Mexico, the Philippines. And yes, there are some Canadian shows I haven't covered, and they'll likely be popping up in there. So for now, I want to say thank you to all of you who have been supporting this show for all these years I've been doing it. Whether you just liked the video, whether you've commented, or those of you who've backed us through the Patreon, greatly appreciate it. There was no way I could have done 69 episodes of the Games of Canada without your support. And I hope that will continue into the global game, where hopefully we will do even more episodes. So do tune in, and thank you very much. If you had a favorite moment during this series, please drop a comment. And I'd love to reminisce with you. And of course, and these episodes are remain online, I would assume. It's really going to be up to Cindy, but you could always go back and check them out anytime you'd like. And what else can I say? I guess thank you to the crew here, who most of you are going to be joining me on the global game. So, we'll all be seeing each other again soon. And I've always ended, well, most episodes anyway, I've ended the show by saying, "Long may your big jib draw," which not everybody has understood what that meant. And I'm thankful that Cindy and everybody let me use that as my sign-off phrase, because that had a very deep meaning to me. It comes from a Newfoundland expression that we use as a drinking toast. And when most people will say "to your health" or "cheers," what we say is "long may your big jib draw." It's really a sailor's expression. The jib is basically your main sail, and if it's drawing wind, that means you're going to have a smooth journey across the ocean. So we say "long may your big jib draw," basically saying may there always be wind in your sails. So to all of you out there, I say for the last time on here, long may your big jib draw. So long, and thank you.